Welcome aboard. If you're watching this video, then let me be the first to say, congratulations. You've recently been interested in wanting to get better with Caleb Quinn, aka the Deathslinger, and this is your first official day of training.
Can I start sniping survivors now?
Oh no. You've got a lot to learn before you're ready to start sniping survivors, as you can see by this cowboy level. I said cowboy level. You are now being guided by one of the most skilled Deathslinger players in Dead by Daylight. But it didn't get that way overnight, because Steam conducts maintenance at 6. From humble beginnings. You may think Mr. Akeeno, creator of the guide, has always been the sweat lord he is today. And you're right!
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. What was the pathing? What was the pathing like? What was the pathing like? Just show them what the Deathslinger was doing. Wait, hold on.
Oh, but look, he was holding it down like this. He walked me down
wait.
like this up to my
Wait, show me. Back up.
He held it down.
Guys, that's why he died to the Deathslinger right there.
After the nerf, Akeeno stayed secluded in a deep depression that seemed endless. But then his luck changed when he decided to show players Slinger is still viable, and with a few minor alterations, the Deathslinger Guide was born. Before we begin this guide, I would like to explain that this is easier to replicate on PC, but console players can also benefit from this guide. Okay, so let's get to the killer facts. The Deathslinger moves at 4.4 meters per second, or 110% movement speed. Normal killer movement speed is 4.6 meters per second, or 115% movement speed. So the Deathslinger is 5% slower than a standard killer and is encouraged to use his power. Survivors move at 4 meters per second or 100% movement speed. The Deathslinger also has a 32-meter terror radius and is a tall killer. The Deathslinger's power is called the Redeemer. Pressing and holding the power button allows the Deathslinger to aim down sights, and pressing the attack button shoots out a spear that can pierce a survivor and reel them towards the Deathslinger. The Redeemer must also be reloaded after every shot before you can fire again. When aiming down sights, the animation takes 0.4 seconds, and when canceling, it takes 0.6 seconds. Also, your FOV is zoomed in by 25%, from 103 FOV down to 77 FOV, or from 87 FOV to 65 FOV. Additionally, your horizontal sensitivity is reduced to 40% of your current sensitivity and 80% vertically. This means if your killer sensitivity is set to 100 when you ADS, the horizontal sensitivity is 40 and the vertical is 80. This cannot be changed within the game. Other games offer a ADS slider to set your personal preference, but not DBD. The Redeemer is not a hit-scan weapon, but instead a projectile. The firing delay of the weapon is 0.45 seconds. That is the amount of time you need to work with when leading your shots. In other words, you need to lead your shot half a second ahead of a survivor's movement. The Redeemer's max range is 18 meters, and the spear travels at 40 meters per second, similar to a fully charged Huntress hatchet. If you miss a shot, the Deathslinger suffers a 1.5-second cooldown before being able to reload. Reloading the Redeemer takes 2.6 seconds, and you move at 2.64 meters per second, or 66% movement speed during the duration. When firing the Redeemer, it will disturb any crow within 24 meters. Landing a shot doesn't injure a survivor immediately, but instead stuns them for 0.75 seconds. This is useful for interrupting hook saves or stopping survivors from reaching a pallet in time. Then you will have the ability to reel the survivor by holding the power button. A chain meter shows on screen, letting you know how much time you have left before it breaks. If the chain breaks, the Deathslinger will suffer a 3-second stun similar to the nurse, and the survivor will receive deep wound. The following is a chart showing all the chain power trivia. The main thing to get from this chart is that reeling itself does not add to the chain meter filling up, but rather passive tension and/or pulling and collision. I also noticed that the usual ringing sound that plays to warn survivors of an impending shot is missing. It could mean two things. It's a bug or it's a shadow buff, most likely with the Alan Wake update. I will now play warning sound that is missing. Chapter 1. Weapon Iron Sights. Before I teach you how to aim with the Deathslinger, you need to choose the right weapon. Deathslinger's weapon is important because it's also his power, meaning that if the weapon isn't accurate or calibrated properly, it will have inconsistencies. When Behavior was programming the Deathslinger, they made sure the iron sights is visually accurate. Unfortunately, only the base weapon, Death to Bayshore, is properly calibrated. The rest are off from the tip, and some even hide the side iron sights, making it harder on the player to properly line up shots. So my suggestion is to use only the base weapon until the rest are fixed. I will now show a video comparing the weapons to the base weapon, along with a tier list. Also, this was recorded before the Iron Maiden Deathslinger and Deep Rift variant skin, but the video message remains the same. It's a long one, so grab some snacks and a drink, or you could skip to the next section. Point is, that Behavior needs to fix the weapons. Lastly, I will fire the first shot through the window board and the second to match with the base weapon, Death to Bayshore, showing the inconsistencies. Chapter 2. Leading your shot. So we finally reached the part of the video where you actually start to learn stuff. I will assume you will be using the weapon Death to Bayshore and have found a comfortable sensitivity. Okay, let's get started. The key to aiming with Deathslinger is recognizing survivor movement, using the iron sights you are given, and timing the shot. There are 3 different survivor movements you must learn to recognize. Survivors running straight across or horizontal from you, survivors running diagonally from you, and survivors running straight ahead from you. These are the only movements you need to know, and using that information to determine your measurement for leading the shot. For example, when a survivor is running across from you, using the appropriate side of the iron sights, you line the edge of the point with the head of the survivor and fire. The shot is guaranteed as long as the survivor doesn't change course. That's how they can dodge, by either fooling you and baiting you to shoot, or a last-second course correct. The horizontal iron sight works on both sides. You just need to line it up. Here are some examples. Now this next survivor movement requires steady tracking, and you should always try and track survivors rather than waiting for the survivor to run into your sights. And don't be afraid to hold your aim down sights. I don't know why players say never to do this. I mean, you saw the pressure I gave this Jill. If you don't hold your aim down sights, then you can't fully apply the techniques I'm showing you. Sorry about that. Now where were we? Oh yeah. When survivors run at an angle, using the appropriate side of the iron sights, you line the edge of the point with the butt of the survivor and fire. Hey, don't look at me! That's where behavior put the center of the hitbox. Again, this works on both sides. You just need to line it up. And remember, you also need to be in the 18-meter range. Here are some examples. And lastly, there's survivors that run straight ahead from you. Using the center point of the iron sights, you line it up to the center of the survivor body and fire. Here are some examples. Okay, so in summary, there are 3 survivor movements you need to learn to recognize: horizontal running, diagonal running, and forward running. Chapter 3. Recognizing ranges. I will now explain certain things of the Deathslinger that you should keep in mind. In addition to recognizing survivor movement, you must also keep in mind your range. I have developed 3 ranges you must consider. The first, close range, between 0 to 6 meters. The second, medium range, between 6 to 12 meters. And the third, long range, 12 to 18 meters. These ranges are important because they also need to be taken into consideration when leading the shot. For example, remember we stated that when survivors run across from you, you use the edge of the iron sights? Well, that's not entirely true, because we haven't taken the range distance in consideration. Take a look at this clip. This survivor, Vittorio, is running across our screen, but he falls in our close range distance. So in this instance, lining up the center of the iron sights makes far more sense rather than using the edge, because then you would be overshooting and miss. In this clip, I am chasing Jeff and will attempt to get a window shot, yes. I forgot to mention that Deathslinger can shoot through almost any obstacle as long as you line it up properly. My apologies. Anyways, when I force Jeff to continue through the loop, I spot him and are already lined up to shoot. But if I attempt to fire, it will miss, because we need to recognize Jeff falls between medium range. So we quickly correct the amount of distance by putting our side iron sights to Jeff's center of body. I will admit, this is an advanced move that was demonstrated in this clip. That's why you need a sensitivity you're familiar with. This comes with time, and you'll get faster at doing it. In this situation, I was chasing this Jill and injured her. I then, with my game sense, monitor the surroundings of my hooked survivor and spot a Steve. Quickly, I determine he's running to the hook with a diagonal running movement, but Steve also falls between long range. So instead of lining up the side iron sights to his butt, I instead line it up to his head. It's the little things like this that separates the good Deathslingers from the greats. In this other example, I find a creeping Maria and get an injure. I then track her movement and she runs out into the open. I take my aim and recognize her running movement is horizontal. I also determined that her distance falls between medium range. So instead of the usual side iron sight point to the face, we instead line it up to her center of body and fire. I know this can seem way too specific, but trust me, there is math involved. Let me show you. Okay, so the Deathslinger's harpoon travels at 40 meters per second, and the maximum range is 18 meters, so if we divide the distance with the travel speed, we get 0.45. That number represents the amount of time it takes for the harpoon to reach maximum distance. Survivors run at 4 meters per second, so in 0.45 seconds, survivors run 1.8 meters per second, or 45% movement speed, meaning that at the maximum range of 18 meters, we need to lead the shot 1.8 meters ahead of the survivor. This distance we need to lead varies by range. The closer the survivor, the less distance we lead with. This chart shows how much time it takes the harpoon to reach a specific distance, along with how much distance you need to lead ahead of the survivor for it to connect. For example, if a survivor is 15 meters away, it will take 0.375 seconds for the harpoon to reach the 15 meters, and we need to lead the shot 1.5 meters ahead of the survivor. Also, the movement speed the survivor has in 0.375 seconds is equivalent to 37.5% movement speed. I'm not expecting anyone to somehow know what amount they need to lead their shot by and at every single range. That's why instead, we just choose 3 distances: 18 meters, 12 meters, and 6 meters. These will be our averages. Even though a survivor might be 10 meters away, we can still use 12 meters as a base measurement because the survivor's hitbox will overlap it and connect. So going back to the survivor running example, if they're at 18 meters, you lead by this amount. At 12 meters, you lead by this amount. And at 6 meters, you lead by this amount. I know this is really complicated and intimidating, so let me simplify it even further. In this clip, Zarina is running with a diagonal running position and falls between long range, so we position our iron sights as if she is running horizontal, because if we line it up to her butt, the harpoon will reach behind her and not ahead where we want. Yes, that sliver of space we differentiated makes the difference. That's why Deathslinger is so hard. The only solutions to this is that behavior either makes survivor hitboxes bigger or increase the speed of the harpoon to either 50 meters per second or 60 meters per second, reducing the amount we need to lead by and making it more tighter. On this other example, I am trying to beat Ellen before she reaches the pallet. Ellen falls in our close-range classification, so aiming at her directly with our center iron sight is the correct play. And then we have this special clip. Here we have Alan, bobbing and weaving to avoid my shot. I know that Alan's end goal is to make it behind cover to the shack, so I am running out of time. But I also need to be patient. Like a hunter, you need to wait for the right opportunity to fire. As we get closer to the shack, Alan has to commit to the shack. So in that instance, I recognize he's running with a diagonal movement and falls in our long-range classification. So quickly we adjust the iron sights to the butt of the survivor and fire. What I want you to get from this section is that first you need to recognize survivor movement, then the range they are at, and then finally using one of the 3 appropriate aiming styles to fire. Those being horizontal aim, diagonal aim, and straight ahead aim. Hopefully with these tips you are able to get an understanding on what to do in certain situations. This is the best I can do in explaining the aim techniques for the Deathslinger. I'm not going to lie to you. It won't be easy, but you must never feel fear. Fear of what, you might say? The fear of missing your shot. I want you to first conquer your doubt in your abilities. But does that mean by going around blindly firing at survivors? No. It means that to play the Deathslinger efficiently, you need to be in a calm state, performing graceful movements that are cold and precise. You will first be slow at tracking, experiment with different sensitivities, record your clips, and play them back. Look for the mistakes you might have committed and fixing them. Look at the clips where you do land your shots, analyze why it landed, and replicating the shot. Be warned, you will get hate for using my aiming style, getting called hold scope or something similar to that. Besides, after the nerf, you can't catch a survivor off guard by quick scoping anymore. Remember, it takes 0.4 seconds to raise the weapon and another 0.45 seconds to reach max range, so a survivor has 0.85 seconds to react to your shot. In that amount of time, they can move 3.4 meters out of the way, but by already holding your aim, you reduce the dodging window opportunity from 0.85 seconds to 0.45 seconds. Remember, this is easier by using the base weapon, Death to Bayshore. You're on your own now, fellow viewer, at least for the aiming portion. Like the great Master Roshi once said, you viewers didn't come here to win, you came to learn. Chapter 4. Understanding Reeling. Okay, now that we know how to aim, you need to learn how to reel the survivors towards you. I will now explain in depth how the chain mechanic works. I know I showed you the reeling chart towards the beginning, but I didn't want to overwhelm you. So let's get started. After landing a shot on a survivor, the chain meter appears on screen. The chain meter has 100 charges. Passively, the chain meter consumes 2.5 charges per second. This is always in effect, consider it base kit. So, when a survivor is not struggling, the chain will break in 40 seconds. On top of the 2.5 charges per second, it consumes an additional 15 charges per second when a survivor pulls against the chain, resulting in a total of 17.5 charges per second. With these numbers, the chain will break in 5.714 seconds. When the chain is through an obstacle and the survivor is not struggling, it consumes 20 charges per second, plus the 2.5 passive, which results in a total of 22.5 charges per second. With these numbers, the chain will break in 4.444 seconds. When the chain is through an obstacle and the survivor is resisting, it consumes 37.5 charges per second. That's including the 2.5 passive. With these numbers, the chain will break in 2.666 seconds. Reeling itself does not add any charges to the chain meter, so you don't have to worry about that. Also, to know if the chain is through an obstacle, it will glow red. The movement speeds for the Deathslinger when reeling are the following: 1.54 meters per second, or 38.5% movement speed when reeling with collision. 2.2 meters per second, or 55% movement speed when reeling without collision. 2.46 meters per second, or 66% movement speed when reeling with collision while walking backwards. And finally, 3.52 meters per second, or 88% movement speed when reeling without collision while walking backwards. When reeling a healthy survivor and use a basic attack, or letting the chain break, the survivor becomes injured and receives deep wound. If the chain breaks, the Deathslinger endures a 3-second stun. When reeling an injured survivor, or a survivor with deep wound, and if the chain breaks, the survivor will not go down. Spearing a survivor with deep wound pauses the timer. It, however, does not reset the deep wound timer when the chain is broken. When reeling an injured survivor, or a survivor with deep wound, and using a basic attack, the survivor will go down. So, understanding these facts, you could spear a survivor that recently got unhooked around 6 seconds later and wait out the 10-second base borrowed time. Spearing a survivor also avoids dead hard. Also, don't fall for this classic survivor trap, the CJ Tech. Just do a quick basic attack or pick up the survivor while looking at a wall. Another technique is that if timed properly, you could hold a survivor hostage to confirm hook states or a sacrifice. With the Deathslinger, you could also drag a survivor closer to an available hook if they decide to go down at a corner. Furthermore, you can break your chain in a dead zone, forcing the survivor in a bad spot and following up with an easy second shot. Lastly, when reeling, most of the time you want to walk backwards to give survivors less control and avoiding for them to get stuck on the environment. Reeling backwards, however, does not make the survivor come to you faster. It is the same walking in all directions. Chapter 5. Positioning. Now that we know how to aim and know our reeling facts, we must consider our positioning. Landing a shot doesn't matter if you can't secure a down, so we must quickly analyze if attempting the shot is even worth it. That is something the Deathslinger is inferior to than the Huntress. Also, look at this off the record and Medal of Man value. Crazy, huh? Alright, back to the lesson. So, in this clip, we spot a Michaela and land our shot. Observing my environment, I notice she can exit through the door on the right, so I start positioning myself backwards to the door on my right, having line of sight of either path she might take. So Michaela decides to take the path to the left, and I begin to pre-aim as I follow. I lower my weapon thinking she was faking the vault, but now I lost my opportunity to shoot, but then quickly catch on to Michaela's fear and observe her movement. So I move to the right as I aim to have line of sight and fire. So in this clip, we positioned ourselves well to see which way Michaela would go, and analyzed whether the window shot was worth it, at the same time making sure that if we did fire, it could still lead to a down. Here we get in a position to have good line of sight. We line up our shot and fire. Then we begin to move to the right, so that the chain does not go through the environment. Remember, if the chain were in the environment, it would break in 2 seconds, only giving us an injure. Also, as we walk backwards and to the right, So does Feng, pulling her away from the body bags. As soon as she is free from the body bags, we move to the left, avoiding the chain from going through the wall on the right. Now we quickly realize that there is an elevation difference. If we keep walking backwards, the chain will go through the stairs and break faster. So we move our camera upwards to avoid losing our down. You might ask, why don't we move forwards? That's because if we do, Feng will have more control and go to our right behind the door frame and lose our down. Now that Feng has made it past the door frame, it's safe to walk forwards and lunge to confirm the down. After you get a down, always, no matter the killer, look around in case of a flashlight save. By doing that, we find a second Feng and decide to pressure her as well. We reload and get into another position that has line of sight. We line up our shot and fire. Before the shot has even reached the second Feng, we start walking backwards. I forgot to mention that there is a sliver of time you can walk before the chain meter appears. Again, my apologies. Okay, so we move backwards and to the right, avoiding the stacks of boxes to our left. We keep pulling backwards, and the second Feng almost gets stuck on the door frame. So we walk to the right and backwards. We manage to get the second Feng out of the room, but now our chain is going through the handrail. So quickly we move forwards and to the left. As the meter almost reaches the end, we go for a lunge and confirm the down. So, to summarize this clip, we positioned ourselves well, along with adapting to the situation, as well as preserving chain meter charges and quickly earning 2 downs. Quick note, the only reason we got these 2 downs is because of the eerie coin. More on that later. And yes, I forgot to mori her. In this clip, we are following Nia and can't get an angle on her. So knowing survivors have a third-person camera, we attempt to fake going left and double back to the right. But it appears that we have lost our gamble and made a critical mistake. As we continue forwards, we spot a different survivor, Zarina. Quickly we raise our weapon and take advantage of the Zarina being focused at the entrance, not knowing that we are behind her and ready to strike, so we do. After the injure, we reload and track Zarina running into the small shed again, so we position ourselves to the left to catch the Zarina as she vaults. We take our aim and fire. After our down, the Nia comes out of hiding, so we hook our catch and go pressure her as well. Nia lets her guard down and we land an easy shot. All that's left to do is reel backwards to avoid the rocks, resulting in the Nia accepting her fate. To summarize this clip, we incorrectly gambled and lost our initial target, but a new opportunity showed up when we were positioned well enough to catch the Zarina off guard, as well as reclaiming our original target. In this other clip, we find a Feng and line up our shot. However, when it comes to reeling the Feng, our positioning is weak. In this instance, the chain is going through the shack and Feng is struggling, so it will break in 2 seconds. We try to walk outside the shack, but get stuck, and the unforgiving chain meter breaks on us, resulting in nothing but deep wound. We pick ourselves back up and attempt another shot. This time, we must position ourselves in a more advantageous position to confirm the down, so we choose to stand near the shack entrance, preventing ourselves to get stuck again. We land the shot and walk outside the shack. Then we begin walking forwards and to the left, trying to drag the Feng out of cover. If we simply walk backwards, the Feng will just remain in place, and we will lose another shot we landed. After getting the Feng behind the corner, we begin to pull her by walking backwards, as well as to the left. Again, if we only walk backwards, the Feng will just remain in place. Now that we managed to get the Feng out of cover and liberated the chain from collision, we must act quickly before the chain meter breaks on us. So we hold forwards and lunge at the Feng, earning our down. To summarize this clip, we first landed a shot through the shack, but had poor positioning, resulting in losing our down. So then, quickly we repositioned ourselves in a more advantageous position, at the same time adjusting our reeling movement, resulting in confirming the down. I could show you more examples, but I believe that you understand the concept of positioning and whether to take a shot. Remember, only take shots you know will result in downs. And here's Akeeno's perspective of the sweatlord he was back then. Chapter 6. The Conclusion. Well, fellow viewer, we have reached the point of this training video where I have almost nothing left to teach you. We have gone through and explained why you should only use the base weapon, Death to Bayshore, along with the comparisons. Then we talked about recognizing survivor movements and how to lead your shot using one of the 3 aiming styles, those being horizontal, diagonal, and straight-ahead aim. After that, we explained to always keep in mind of the range you are at and adjust the aim accordingly, those being close, medium, and long range, while throwing in the numbers charts regarding the harpoon's speed and how much to lead ahead. Also, we explained the reeling mechanic with their own respective numbers and techniques, and then finally being aware of our positioning. All I can recommend now are perks and add-ons. To make it quick, you could run anything on Slinger. I personally use Hex, No One Escapes Death, No Way Out, Ultimate Weapon, and Whispers. This build is about being efficient by finding survivors with Ultimate Weapon, and we also use Whispers if survivors run Calm Spirit or get in a locker. Hex Noed is for when you get Gen rushed hard and serves as a trump card. Think about it. The survivors focus hard on the generators and ignore the dull totems. And finally, No Way Out is to give you more time in the endgame. For add-ons, the Wanted poster is a must for me, since our style is to read the survivor's movement, and it also helps for pre-aiming around corners or loops. The Deathslinger's ADS speed is 93.5% movement speed, and with the 3% add-on, brings it up to 96.5% movement speed. That's very close to the survivor's own 100% movement speed. Jaw Smasher is not worth running or stacking. It's only 1.5%. Then for the second add-on, I use Eerie Coin. As you saw with the many clips, it's helped me secure back-to-back downs. What it does is that if you spear a survivor from 12 meters away or further, they become exposed, and I know that with this video y'all viewers are more than capable of achieving that now. If you don't want to run the Eerie Coin, then perhaps use Warden's Keys for faster reload, or the Rusted Spike for Mangled. It's up to you. Just stay away from the Reeling, Mending, and Terror Radius add-ons. They're not great. And as a farewell gift, I give away my last tip. When a survivor has deep wound and they go inside a locker, you can just aim at the locker, putting the survivor in a catch-22 situation. If they stay inside, then they will go down because of the mend timer. Or, if they jump out, well then, just shoot at them and claim your easy down. And in conclusion, I wish you all good luck, and congratulations, you graduate.
Atop the crags and cliffs the air is thin, so we'll find a mountain path on down the hill. Meet me where the snow melt flows. It is there, my dear, where we'll begin again. Skip and stones, braiding hair, last year's antlers mark the trail. Take us back, oh, take us back, oh, take us stopping where the children grew. All that we have known will be an echo of days when love was true. Muted voices just beyond the silence.